Hello everybody, welcome to China Update. This is a special episode, a shorter episode than usual that I'm sending out today. Sunday, as you guys know, we normally take a rest on Sunday and don't release an episode, but I really wanted to discuss the situation in Shanghai because it touches on both China's response to what is still a serious outbreak situation, especially with the zero tolerance policy in China, as well as the Chinese economy, and what we're seeing right now is going to be very consequential for the country. So today, this is just a shorter episode looking specifically at these developments in Shanghai, and then we'll be back to regular episodes tomorrow. I'm sorry for interrupting your day of rest on Sunday. I'll only take a few minutes of your time as we go through some of these developments. On Friday, China's economic megacity and financial hub of Shanghai hit a new high in its local COVID-19 cases, with a modest 38 confirmed local infections and a not-so-modest 2,231 asymptomatic cases officially recognized. These numbers continue to grow over the weekend, with Shanghai's asymptomatic cases representing about 40% of the national official total. Officials claimed yesterday, Saturday, that the surge in asymptomatic cases could be attributed to the lag time between taking the nucleic acid tests and getting the results for these tests. Expensive and highly disruptive restrictions have been implemented across the city, with many places closed and some neighborhoods on short-term lockdowns. However, despite this, and despite pressure from Beijing, Shanghai still refuses to enforce a full citywide lockdown like we have seen with some other cities, most memorably, of course, Wuhan in early 2020 and Xi'an last year in 2021. And even now, as China fights dozens of outbreaks across the country with its zero-tolerance cases policy, tens of millions of residents are under varying degrees of lockdown. Vice Premier Sun Chunlan has spent the last 2 weeks in hard-hit Jilin province in the northeast, urging Jilin city to deploy citywide testing, lockdowns, and contract tracing to ensure no new infections are found beyond the people already in quarantine. While local officials in Shanghai have been diplomatic with their language, the reason for holding off on a full lockdown in Shanghai has been made clear. The economic damage to shutting down the port metropolis of 25 million people would be too devastating. At a daily Shanghai press conference yesterday, Saturday, local officials expressed, quote, "I saw the proposal online saying, why can't we make up our minds and lock the city down for 3, 5 days or even a week? No, we can't, because Shanghai is not only home to Shanghai residents. It plays an important role in national economic and social development and even affects the global economy. If the city came to a complete stop, there would be a lot of international cargo left floating on the East China Sea, which would have an impact on the national and global economy. All Shanghai citizens should see the big picture view." End quote. Interestingly, this comment came from Wu Fan, a medical expert and not an economic expert. And frankly, there is also a secondary concern. That is that Shanghai's urban middle class are not as easy to push around as residents of poorer regional cities. Some hospitals in the city have been shut down daily for disinfection or isolation in response to positive tests among patients. On Wednesday, in a development which caused some online outrage, a nurse having an asthma attack died trying to find a hospital that was open. Indeed, the hospital that she worked at refused to take her before she died. Shanghai officials have aimed to ease disruptions with a more targeted approach over the last week or so. This has been marked by rolling 48-hour lockdowns of individual neighborhoods and large-scale testing, while largely keeping the city running. But despite all this, there are still no signs that there is any light at the end of the tunnel at this point. In fact, the situation in Shanghai could get far worse, forcing officials to choose between a zero-tolerance policy that is increasingly less attractive or avoiding massive economic pain for not just the city, but for the whole country. If Shanghai is successful, though, with this approach, it may be adopted in other parts of the country as the debate over the wisdom of China's zero-tolerance policy intensifies yet again. Although we need to keep in mind that Shanghai is far better resourced than most of the rest of the country. We remember from earlier in the week, in some poor regions, the cost of testing residents for COVID is higher than the local government's public health budgets for the entire year. And as we discussed in depth in yesterday's episode, many local governments are facing tremendous fiscal pressures this year. We will continue watching these developments and China developments generally in the following weeks. Now, I know there are many people who watched China Update that are based in Shanghai. I'd very much like to know what you guys are seeing and experiencing on the ground, some of your feedback. I try to visit Shanghai as much as possible. The last 2 weeks I haven't been able to because of travel restrictions with the city. I have sources on the ground that are letting me know what's going on, and of course I'm reading the information coming out of the city. But it's always great to hear your first-hand experience on the ground there, as well as any other people in different cities around the country. I know that there are different measures that are being implemented in different parts of the country. And as always, wherever you are listening to this, it's always great to hear your comments and your thoughts. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to hit the like button. It's a huge help. Tomorrow, we'll be back with regular episodes of China Update. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you tomorrow.